The Architect's Guide to Power: What Machiavelli Got Right and Wrong for Modern Life. For centuries, Machiavelli's name was synonymous with manipulation, coldness, and calculation. A man who had the courage to write what everyone did, but no one admitted. He observed the powerful, the kings and the traitors, and translated human behavior into something close to a manual. The Prince was not just a book, it was a mirror, and whoever dared to look into that mirror saw what power truly is, an engineering of the mind. But the world has changed, and what Machiavelli saw in medieval politics now happens inside people's heads. The battlefield is no longer the throne, it's the nervous system itself. Today, man doesn't need to be ruled by a king, because he is already a prisoner of his own emotions. Look closely. Most people live as subjects of impulses, governed by anxiety, the need for approval, and the fear of losing what little control they believe they have. The modern mind is a castle taken from within. The enemy no longer needs to invade. He lives there. Machiavelli understood almost everything about power, but he erred on one crucial point. He believed that domination begins with the manipulation of others. The truth is that domination begins with self-transformation. The true prince does not govern people. He governs himself. And this is where the Architect's Code comes in. An ancient code, but updated for the modern era, where power is no longer a matter of throne, sword, or army, but of mental clarity, strategic silence, and emotional discipline. You are about to understand why almost all of society operates in Machiavellian survivor mode, using small doses of manipulation to feel in control, but without realizing that it is being manipulated by something much larger. We live in a time where everyone wants to appear wise, but few want to become masters. Everyone reads about strategy, but almost no one applies it, because true power requires something that most avoid: solitude, coldness, renunciation, and vision. Machiavelli observed kings and princes, but he did not live long enough to understand the next level. That of architect, the man who not only plays the game, but who creates the board. The one who understands that every external move stems from an internal architecture. The modern world doesn't need more princes. It needs invisible masters. Men and women capable of thinking for themselves, acting silently, and building silent empires within themselves. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what Machiavelli got right, and what he got wrong. You'll see why his ideas about power still dominate governments, corporations, and relationships, but also why they fail miserably when applied to an undisciplined mind. This is the starting point. Here, we won't talk about manipulating the world. We'll talk about reprogram yourself so as never to be manipulated again. The code I'm about to reveal is the same one used by strategists who operate in the shadows, by leaders who never need to justify themselves, and by wise men who aren't distracted by the noise of the masses. True power isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about observing in silence and acting when no one is noticing. Get ready to decipher the Architect's Guide, the code that 99% ignore because it demands the highest price there is: self-transformation. The modern mind lives in a state of war, but no one admits it. Every notification, every comparison, every thought of "I need to be better than him" is a small battle fought within a weakened empire. The man thinks he is fighting for success, when in reality he is running away from the feeling of being irrelevant. Today's survivor is an updated version of the old subject. He doesn't obey a king but an algorithm. You don't seek power, you seek validation. And the most tragic thing is that he believes he is evolving, because the system has taught him that growing means accumulating visible symbols of power, while inside he becomes increasingly fragile, more unstable, easier to manipulate. The survivor lives like a character. He feigns confidence, but sleeps in anxiety. He displays wisdom, but fears silence. He uses ready-made phrases about strength and overcoming adversity. But one criticism, one loss, one disapproving look, and the whole castle crumbles. And he doesn't understand why. He doesn't realize he's operating with a divided mind. One part trying to prove his worth and the other whispering that he's an imposter. This is the internal battlefield where most die, never realizing that the enemy is within. Machiavelli, in his time, saw princes surrounded by external enemies. Today, the enemy is the undisciplined mind itself. The survival mode is intelligent, but instinctive. It knows how to react quickly, but never creates anything new. He believes he's fighting for power, but he's only fighting to avoid losing what he never had: control. Look around. Society is full of overworked but empty men, exhausted but constantly connected women, intelligent but emotionally broken young people. Machiavelli taught that power is gained through cunning, observation of the weak, and manipulation of circumstances. And he was right, to a certain extent. The survivor tries to control everything around them because they lack the internal structure to control themselves. Therefore, survival mode is efficient, but miserable. It achieves goals, but loses its meaning. It accumulates victories, but doesn't rest. It is the most dangerous state that exists, that of functional unconsciousness. You work, you talk, you laugh, but you are spiritually dead. It's the stage where the body is alive, but the mind has already given up. And it is at this point that deep frustration arises. Machiavelli described how to maintain a stable kingdom, but he never explained how to maintain a stable mind. And that's where everyone falls short. The survivor doesn't want to admit it, but he's being manipulated exactly like the subjects Machiavelli described 500 years ago. Only now, the tyrant is his own undisciplined mind. And this is where the transition begins. The bridge between the survivor and the master is not in the world. It is within. Because when you master the inner world, the outer world becomes merely a consequence. There comes a point when a man needs to stop deceiving himself. There is no such thing as bad luck, lack of time, or too many toxic people. The world is not cruel. It is neutral. It is your mental framework that interprets everything as a threat. The survivor's mind is like an abandoned fortress, full of holes, with windows open to any emotional wind that wants to enter. And every negative thought is an invader that feels at home inside. But there comes an inevitable moment when the truth prevails. The moment you realize you're fighting your own shadow, that the suffering that haunts you doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. That the chaos of life is, in fact, the exact reflection of the chaos you hold in your mind. And when that penny drops, something changes. Suddenly, guilt loses its meaning, because you understand. Guilt paralyzes, but responsibility liberates. It doesn't matter who hurt you, who deceived you, who limited you. What matters is who you become afterward. Machiavelli said that a prince must learn to act against goodness if necessary, in order to maintain power. But the architect of the mind understands something even deeper. Power doesn't need to be maintained when it originates from the right center. The teacher doesn't need to be cruel. They need to be clear. He doesn't manipulate people. He reorganizes his own inner universe. The bridge between survivor and master begins when you stop seeking approval and start seeking structure. When you realize that the power Machiavelli described, the power to influence, dominate, and conquer, is a childish version of true mastery, self-mastery. And here's the part that few people can bear to hear. You won't become a master as long as you keep explaining yourself. The survivor wants to be understood. The master wants to understand. The survivor reacts. The master observes. The survivor demands respect. The master radiates presence. And all of this stems from an internal decision. The point at which you stop acting out of fear and start acting out of clarity. One lives on impulse, the other on plans. One needs to win today, the other builds an empire that will last for decades. Machiavelli believed that the prince needed to feign virtue. The architect of the mind doesn't pretend anything. He becomes virtue itself. Because pretending requires effort, but essence requires structure. You're not going to wake up one day with a divine light telling you, now you're a master. No. It will happen during an ordinary moment. A silence between two thoughts. The moment you realize you no longer need to prove anything. That is true power. Not the desire to dominate, but the desire not to be dominated. Not the one of manipulating, but the one of remaining unwavering. The bridge is the point where the game changes, where you stop reacting to the board and start moving it, where power ceases to be external and becomes a natural extension of its internal structure. And the most interesting thing is that the world is starting to react to it. People perceive you differently, even if you don't say anything. Things seem to be aligning not because the universe has changed, but because you've stopped resisting. The master does not seek control. He creates harmony. And harmony is the state where nothing external distracts you from your internal focus. And to achieve it, you'll need a protocol, a precise mental sequence designed to build the same kind of clarity and presence that separates the architects of chaos from the crowds struggling to survive. In the next few minutes, I will reveal this protocol, the same code used by silent strategists who dominate without noise, by wise men who act without haste, and by leaders who build legacies in silence. True power doesn't come from control. It comes from construction. Machiavelli understood the surface of power, but never penetrated its foundation. That is why the architect is code, begins within, in the realm of the invisible forces that shape every thought, decision, and reaction. 1. Pillar of internal order. Before governing, govern yourself. The survivor wakes up reacting, spends the whole day running around trying to put out fires, and goes to sleep believing that he was productive. But the master doesn't awaken by reacting. He awakens, commanding. He understands that each morning is a ritual, not an accident. Before facing the world, he realigns his own axis. He falls silent, observes, and defines his direction. Inner order is what transforms chaos into clarity. No strategy can survive without routine, no victory without structure. The difference between the average person and the architect is that the former dreams of changing the world. The latter adjusts his own axis until the world responds. 2. Pillar of cold reading. See what the other person doesn't see. Machiavelli taught us to observe men, but the architect learns to see the intentions behind the gestures. Most people react to words, the master reads the silence. While the survivor takes offense at opinions, the master analyzes patterns. He understands that every emotion is a clue, every reaction is a behavioral signature. It is the training of the mind that refuses to be blind amidst collective hysteria. While the crowd reacts to the noise, the master identifies the invisible movement that the noise attempts to conceal. And that's why he seems lucky. But luck is nothing more than conscious anticipation. Pillar of strategic neutrality. Neither against, nor in favor, the survivor becomes exhausted trying to choose sides, please groups, and maintain reputations. The master operates at a different level. He understands that taking an emotional stance is the same as surrendering one's own power. Neutrality is not indifference. It is dominance. The master observes the conflict without being drawn into it. He uses the energy of tensions to shape outcomes, while others waste energy trying to win pointless arguments. Neutrality is the mental state of silent architects, those who don't need to prove who they are. They act at the right moment, not on impulse, but through calculation. They wait for the world to move, and then they reposition a single piece. This is how you win wars without fighting. 4. Pillar of invisibility. Power that is displayed too much destroys itself. Machiavelli said that the prince should be feared, but the architect understands. True power is imperceptible. The force that the world cannot measure is the one that no one can contain. The survivor wants recognition. The master wants effectiveness. He doesn't announce his intentions. He simply acts, and the environment rearranges itself around his presence. Invisibility is the ultimate form of power because it protects the mind from ego and action from judgment. It's the state in which you work in silence and the result speaks for itself. It's the level where there's no more dispute, only natural influence. These 4 pillars form the architect's code. Together they create a mental structure that is impossible to break. A mind that doesn't depend on approval, doesn't fear loss, and doesn't compromise its peace. A mind that observes the world like an engineer of the invisible, adjusting internal gears while others rush to change what is outside. And it is at this point that the ordinary man disappears, and the strategist is born. He who does not hurry, does not justify himself, and is not shaken. He knows that power is not control, but consistency. Leadership isn't about followers, it's about direction. And that winning isn't about destroying the enemy, it's about transcending the game. The survivor lives in constant tension because he believes he needs to fight for everything. The master lives in peace because he understands that he is already everything he needs to be. And this calmness, paradoxically, is what makes him unbeatable. The power that Machiavelli described was only the external map, but the real territory lies within. For centuries, man has sought to dominate thrones, markets, armies, and nations, and yet he has remained a slave to his own mind. Because external power is theater, internal power is reality, and when understanding is born, the whole world bends to the coherence of that mind. They don't try to convince, they live in such a way that the world adjusts itself. They don't react to chaos, they create harmony. Machiavelli believed that power was fragile and should be defended with fear and force. But the architect knows, real power cannot be taken because it doesn't depend on anything outside of you, an inner alignment between thought, emotion, and action. While most people exhaust themselves trying to appear strong, the architect remains still, observing. He knows that whoever controls their own mind controls their own destiny, and whoever governs the invisible governs the visible effortlessly. From this moment on, you are no longer part of the game board. Everything that happened to you, the falls, the mistakes, the betrayals, were merely stages in the construction. Each pain taught you to shape a part of the fortress. Each loss removed a useless brick. Each failure exposed a weakness that has now been reinforced. The survivor laments the past. The master uses it as a blueprint. The survivor looks for shortcuts. The master builds paths. And the architect understands that all the pain was part of the project. You don't need to react anymore. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Now you act with surgical precision, not to win, but to create. Modern power is not about shouting the loudest or accumulating more status. It's the ability to remain lucid while everyone else goes insane. It is the strength to keep one's axis steady when the world spins in panic. And that's why so few people get here. Because this serenity comes at a high price. It's hard to let go of ego, haste, and the need to be seen. But those who pay that price are never the same again. And now, it's up to you to decide whether what you've just heard will be just a video or the beginning of a new mental architecture. The silent elite is already operating at that level. Men and women who understood that power is not conquered. It builds brick by brick, thought by thought. Review the plan, adjust its structure, execute the protocol. And when you realize it, the world will already be reacting to the new frequency of your mind. Because the power you sought has always been here.